Good morning and welcome to Dawn at the Downs, a Kentucky Derby workout show presented by TwinSpires.com. Fast temperature in the low 50s, and we are 8 days until Kentucky Derby 143. Don't forget you can bet on the Kentucky Derby fast, safe, and easy at TwinSpires.com and on the TwinSpires app. Welcome to all of our social media followers around the world. Tell us where you're checking in from. Feel free to ask questions. We'll answer as many as we can after the Derby and Oaks training at 8:45 a.m. Eastern Time. And ladies and gentlemen, fasten your seatbelts, get your popcorn ready. We're going to be fast and furious here this morning. We've got a lot of workouts on our agenda, very major final preps for a lot of our Kentucky Derby contenders. Todd Pletcher sending his horse is out in full force this morning. Earlier this morning, Classic Empire, the 2-year-old champion, worked in company with Perfect Performer at Churchill Downs and went in 49-1 and galloped out in 103. So Classic Empire out earlier this morning. They're going to send out, Team Cassie's going to send out Salty, I believe, and also State of Honor. And there's Always Dreaming. And this is the horse that a lot of people have been waiting for today especially. He's been on the track the last couple of mornings. He was very fresh and a handful the first morning he was out. He was a little bit better yesterday, but still unsettled on the racetrack. And at least to this point, as he comes out, he's looking a little bit more calm and peaceful. And he's going to have a very important work for him here today for trainer Todd Pletcher. Pletcher has 5 horses potentially in the Kentucky Derby set to work. Another one of those, Malagasy, would need to wow Todd in his workout today in order to make the Kentucky Derby field. That's what Todd has said in recent days. So get a good look at Always Dreaming there. And now you get a good look at one of the Oaks favorites, Salty, coming off an impressive win last time out at Gulfstream Park for trainer Mark Casse. She kind of put herself on the map in a big way in that particular race. And she's scheduled to work this morning as well. We're going to do our best to show you all of these works on the feed here this morning. Times will be difficult as we're going to go fast and furious, so I do suggest that if you're on Twitter, go to Derby Media, follow Derby Media at Derby Media. Those workout times will be up on Twitter as quickly as possible, and we'll try to give it to you live on the show as well. There's another good look at Always Dreaming, Florida Derby winner, the only horse in the prospective Kentucky Derby field with 2 victories already over 9 furlongs, and obviously eager to go again here this morning. Always Dreaming, galloping out through the turn there, and he's continuing on. Stamina appears to be a strong suit for this particular individual, mentioning those 2 9-furlong victories, including the Florida Derby last out emphatically. The next to work is going to be Salty. She will be one of the probable favorites in the Kentucky Oaks off a victory last out in the Gulfstream Park Oaks, in which she stalked and pounced her way to victory by 2.5 lengths, ridden by Joel Rosario for Mark Casse. Casse with 2 Derby prospects and salty for the Oaks. As you can see, that is Wicked Lick working in company. Wicked Lick second to Farrell most recently in the Fairgrounds Oaks, putting her workmate away just before the wire there and galloping out into the turn. Brian Hernandez Jr. slated to ride Wicked Lick. His Kentucky Derby mount is McCracken. We have a team here. We've got Patch on the inside, Tappert on the outside for Todd Pletcher. Tappert with a disappointing effort last time out in the Bluegrass after winning the Tampa Bay Derby. Patch taking a big step forward, second in the Louisiana Derby last time out. Both horses asked for a little bit there into the turn, into the gallop out there. A good stiff workout at the very end. Now we have Practical Joke, and this is interesting because he's been training the last couple of days in blinkers. He's working in blinkers today, as you can see in company. Chad Brown has talked about maybe utilizing blinkers for the Kentucky Derby. Very consistent individual, but has had trouble getting over the hump in a lot of his races. So Chad believing that blinkers may be the key to maybe a length or two, which could make the difference for a Practical Joke. Here's the Fountain of Youth winner, Gunnavera, most recently third in the Florida Derby, behind Always Dreaming. Many thinking stamina will be his strong suit. Javier Castellano riding for Antonio Sano, the Venezuelan connections in the Kentucky Derby. State of Honor now getting his breeze in. Again, when you look at him, physically imposing individual, upwards of 17 hands tall. To the board in 3 consecutive graded stakes races behind the likes of McCracken, Tappert, and most recently Always Dreaming. And don't forget, all of you watching on social media, we will be answering some questions at the conclusion of this workout session right around 8:45 in the morning. Obviously, we've been fast and furious here. A nice work there from State of Honor. Very important final works for a good number of our Kentucky Derby contenders. And there's one of the potential speed horses in the Derby, Battalion Runner. And he looks like he's eager to break off here. Another one of the Todd Pletcher Brigade, most recently second in the Wood Memorial behind Irish War Cry after setting the pace. He was overtaken by Irish War Cry and fought gamely all the way to the wire, and he's been training well here at Churchill Downs since we've seen him the beginning of the week. Battalion Runner on the inside, taking a little bit of pressure from the stablemate by design here by Pletcher, thinking obviously that he's probably going to the lead or near the lead. One week from tomorrow. Obviously the yellow lemon saddle towels for the Derby horses, the pink saddle towels for the Oaks horses. Next up we see Tecalita. Michael Matz, Luis Saez teaming up with this one. She won 3 races in a row. Keeneland, Laurel, then Gulfstream, then was most recently second behind Salty in the Gulfstream Park Oaks. After these works today too, if you want to throw your picks into the ring on social media, tell us who you like. Who's your Derby pick? Who's your best long shot? Who do you like in the Oaks? Give us your opinions. And this is a wise guy horse on the track right now, Hence, from the barn of Steve Asmussen, who has 3 potential Derby starters. He's got Henson untrapped, and he's got Looking at Lee on the outside looking in as he hopes to have a defection to get into the Kentucky Derby field. Hence the winner of the Sunland Derby, a race that has proven to be a key race. Conquest Mo Money was second that day, second in the Arkansas Derby. We saw Hedge Fund run third. He came back and ran second in the Illinois Derby. And then the horse that ran fourth, the Maiden IRAP, came back and won the Bluegrass. And Hence beat them all in emphatic fashion. Here's J-Boy Zecco. I believe he's slated to work tomorrow. That'll be his final work leading up to the Kentucky Derby. The winner of the Gotham Stakes from off the pace. A little bit of a dull fourth in the Bluegrass Stakes for trainer Dale Romans. We also want to mention the fact that if you fans are interested in supporting Thoroughbred Aftercare and possibly winning some money at the same time, one way to do that is to go to the Churchill Downs Foundation's new 50/50 raffle website, derbygive.com. As you see J-Boy Zecco there. Give back to the horses who give so much to you. derbygives.com, 50/50 raffle opportunity. Going to be getting some questions here as the activity is slowing down. And continue to take a look at J-Boy Zecco. And there's McCracken getting a question, who has looked best on the Churchill Downs track? And nice timing, McCracken, because he's one of the horses that has certainly caught my eye since I've been here. I mean, his work was great. His gallops have all been spirited yet controlled. So that's one horse that has definitely caught my eye. Classic Empire looked really good in his work this morning. He seems to be back on track. What do you think about Battalion Runner's work? It was kind of hard for me to tell. I mean, obviously he was beaten through the finish line by his workmate. I'm not sure who the workmate was. And then he was urged in the gallop out through the turn. I would term that maybe a little bit on the disappointing side for Battalion Runner, who's looked good here all week. But again, not privy to the times at this point in time, but just visually from what I saw, I've seen better works this week. McCracken has gone out every morning with the exception of the day after he had his workouts. Another question that we have. When horses typically have a stiff breeze or a stronger type workout, they might take potentially the next day off. After they race, they might take a day or two off from training as well. But, after they have their final major breeze, and McCracken still has one more work to come, um, they'll usually get a little bit of time before they do something serious again. But he's been like clockwork on the track all week. I mean, he's just, like I said, controlled energy. He's eager, yet in control of his action. He's been really, really good. As you get another look at J-Boy Zecco, we got a question here about time in the pastures and how many times a day do they work. Horses get their exercise in the morning. Typically, like I said, if they haven't raced the day before, they'll get out basically every morning if they're happy and healthy. Got a question about the gallop out. What the gallop out is basically when the horse is going to work a particular distance. A lot of the works today were 5 furlongs. The gallop out means the slowing down process. So basically at that point, the major work is over. Horses will gallop out, meaning continue their action until the point where they're slowed down and eventually pulled up. But it's still a good sign to see what kind of stamina a horse may have, how well they gallop out after their workout. Shows you pretty much how much they have left in the tank after a little bit more serious work. As you see McCracken there, just leisurely galloping around the racetrack here at Churchill. This is his home track. He had his win streak snapped last out in the Bluegrass. He ran third, kind of a strangely run race, won by the maiden IRAP, but the way he's come out of it, the way he's trained here at Churchill Downs, and the fact that he loves this track and the fact that this is his home. And, Ian Wilkes has been involved with Kentucky Derby winners before. A lot of people believe that McCracken's going to run a huge race on the first Saturday in May. I just mentioned that the trainer of McCracken is Ian Wilkes, and Ian Wilkes has never started a horse in the Kentucky Derby, but he has been involved with a couple. He's been involved with Unbridled as an exercise rider and with Street Sense as an assistant trainer to Carl Nasker. So he's been around Derby horses. He knows what it takes to get him there, and he's been very excited about this horse the entire time. He's been conservative to an extent, but he's followed his plan. Who are the most consistent horses in the field is the next question that I'm getting. Well, Gervin's one of them. Unfortunately, he's not here at Churchill yet, and there's been some, issues that he's had ongoing with his hoof, and the horse in the screen right now, obviously McCracken has been very, very consistent as well. As you can see, Tracy Wilkes, the wife of trainer Ian Wilkes, on a pony there, heavily involved with the family operation and with McCracken in general. As far as consistency goes, you got to look at Practical Joke. He's always right there. We saw him work in blinkers today. It'll be interesting to see if Chad Browns moves forward with training him in blinkers and potentially runs him in blinkers in the Derby, but Practical Joke, probably the most consistent horse we've seen. Thunder Snow is supposed to arrive, I believe, on Sunday. Obviously, that's quite a journey over from Dubai. If he does get here Sunday, the first day he'll be allowed on the racetrack is Tuesday. Kind of getting mixed signals from the team over there, trainer Sahid bin Surur, about his participation. They're saying yes, but at this point in time, he is in the field. But once he gets on the plane, then we'll be fairly certain that he's going to be here and that he's going to run in the Kentucky Derby. Official training for the Oaks and Derby horses ends at 8:45, but training does not. We see horses from the general population now out on the racetrack, and in addition to the Oaks and the Derby, there are a plethora of stake races on Oaks and Derby Day and opening week at Churchill Downs in general. So we've got a lot of nice horse flesh on the grounds, or horses that will be arriving in the coming days for stake races that will be run. Opening night at Churchill Downs is coming up on Saturday. Then we will race the schedule next week of Tuesday, Wednesday, Thurby, Kentucky Oaks Friday, early post that day, early pokes on Kentucky Derby Saturday as well. So lots to look forward to, and obviously, as we've been mentioning during the course of the program, if you'd like to wager on the Kentucky Derby online, a lot of people like to throw parties at their house, watch the Kentucky Derby on NBC. Of course, if you can be here, if you've never been to the Kentucky Derby, you want to try to make it at some point during your lifetime. But you can wager on the Kentucky Derby. It's fast and easy, and, they make it simple at twinspires.com and the twinspires.com app. Gervin hasn't run a triple-digit buyer. Does this concern you? His issues with his hoof and his lack of recent training concern me more than that. And there is some concern about who Gervin has beaten in his races in Louisiana. Those races haven't come back very strong with the horses that are exiting it, necessarily doing well in subsequent starts. But Gervin's been a true professional, and he is the points leader. He won the Risen Star, he won the Louisiana Derby. And, obviously the connections are hoping that they can get him right. Irish Warcry will be arriving here either Sunday or Monday for trainer Graham Motion. Graham Motion has kept him at his training center on the East Coast, basically wanting to, at this point, keep him away from Churchill Downs. The horse is very, very happy in his current environment. He's been a little bit of a fickle individual. And, obviously ran a poor race in the Fountain of Youth, but he bounced back with a huge win in the Wood Memorial. And, Graham knows what he's doing. He won the Kentucky Derby in 2011 with Animal Kingdom. As you can see here, as the days go on, we're going to have more and more fans on the apron, taking all of the action in, watching the Kentucky Derby and Kentucky Oaks workers. And heck, even when it's not Oaks or Derby week, it's always awesome to come out to the racetrack and just watch the horses train. We have hundreds of horses on the racetrack every given morning. Come out here with a cup of coffee and a nice, beautiful morning like today and just enjoy the atmosphere and the environment. It's one of the things that makes horse racing great. Got a question about IRAP. IRAP is at Keeneland. He's going to have some final major preparations over there. He will be arriving at Churchill Downs, I believe, tomorrow. This is a horse that broke his maiden in the Bluegrass. He was over 30-1. Trainer Doug O'Neill has won the Kentucky Derby twice in recent years with I'll Have Another, and obviously last year with Nyquist. So you have to respect the connections. Mario Gutierrez is a perfect 2-for-2 in the Kentucky Derby. And Redham Racing, obviously involved with the two Kentucky Derby winners for Doug O'Neill as well. But, it was a funny race in the Bluegrass. I don't know really what to make of IRAP. If he wins the Kentucky Derby at 30-1, I'm probably going to be shaking my head. But, again, you have to respect the connections. And he did win one of the strongest prep races we have seen this entire season. Are there any grays in the field? Tappert is a gray. Tappert is a gray, and honestly, Tappert is one of my long shots, as you see pictured there. Speaking of Kentucky Derby winners, there's Calvin Burrell, who famously Mind That Bird, one of the most famous come from behind Kentucky Derby long shot wins of all time. Street Sense, Super Saver. He's a legend when it comes to the Kentucky Derby. I guess you could use the word synonymous with the race, and he's out here exercising horses in the morning. No mount for Calvin this year. But there are some open mounts. There's 4 or 5 horses that don't have jockeys named at this point. I got a feeling we're going to have some jockeys named here probably in the next 24 to 48 hours. Calvin on the outside looking in, but hey, it's hard to argue with success, especially some of the magic he's been able to pull in the Kentucky Derby. Give us your trifecta. Wow, well, it's a little bit early for that. I kind of like what I saw from Always Dreaming today. He's been a horse I've been high on. McCracken is a horse I've been high on. Classic Empire has regained my favor of late. Tappert is definitely going to be one of my long shots. Hence is another horse that I'm potentially looking at. Those are the names, at least at this point, that stick out. But want to see training over the next week. Want to see post positions for sure. Post positions are very, very important when it comes to trying to figure out what kind of trips a horse might get in the Kentucky Derby. I mean, obviously, you don't want the rail. You don't want to get buried down on the inside. That just makes the journey that much more difficult. So my selections can be found on the Churchill Downs website every day, churchilldowns.com, Joe's Picks. So I'll have my Kentucky Derby picks probably posted sometime Friday night. Again, we got probably just a moment or two if you have any questions that you'd like to ask us via social media. And again, we thank you all for joining us. This has been a wonderful experience of preparing for the Kentucky Oaks and the Kentucky Derby. Obviously, a lot of workouts today. And you can go to KentuckyDerby.com. The workout clips, the gallop clips are all posted there. Obviously, we were fast and furious this morning, so we're going to have as much great video up there as possible. Probably early this afternoon. Previous gallops, previous workouts from other days can be found on the Kentucky Derby website. So again, KentuckyDerby.com for all of that fine information. And again, those workout times from today, and there were a lot of them. Go to Derby Media on Twitter. Those will be popping up, over the course of, probably the next 15 minutes or so. A lot to digest, a lot to finalize as far as those workout times go. Thought on Patch's chances to win the Kentucky Derby. I thought his work was okay today. He's one of the most lightly raced horses in the Derby. I believe he only has 3 starts. So that's asking a lot of this particular individual. Obviously, trainer Todd Pletcher has 4, maybe even 5 horses in the Derby. Patch is probably the one that has the least amount of class, so to speak, and the least amount of experience. Obviously, a cool story with the fact that, he's named Patch because he has one eye. It would be a great story for him to win the Kentucky Derby. If he does it, he's probably going to be 30, 40 to 1. I think he's got to take a big step forward, obviously. I'm leaning towards others, but this is a horse that I think you can watch as the year goes on. Races, Preakness, Belmont, down the line in races like, the Jim Dandy or the Haskell or potentially the Travers, because, the West Virginia Derby, the Iowa Derby, the Indiana Derby, there's so many races down the line where a horse like this can be very competitive. Just a little bit short on experience at this point in time. And again, training continuing here at Churchill Downs as you see the general population of horses just continuing their morning exercise. We talked earlier about, horses work every 7 to 10 days if they're in their typical training pattern, preparing for races, in between races. Normally if a horse has had a few months off, they'll take, their time getting back fit. They'll start with a 3 furlong workout. Of course, there's 8 furlongs in a mile, so that's 3/8 of a mile. Then build up to a half mile, build up to 5 furlongs before they're ready to go out onto the racetrack and compete. So again, this Dawn at the Downs Kentucky Derby workout show every morning, 8:30 Eastern Time. J-Boy's Echo is a horse that is supposed to work tomorrow, Saturday. That's going to wrap it up for this morning. We thank all of you that joined us via the Kentucky Derby website and social media. Have a great rest of the day and get on handicapping those Oaks and Derby horses. We'll see you tomorrow.